Report from Santa Fe is made possible in part by grants from the members of the National Education Association of New Mexico, an organization of professionals who believe that investing in public education is an investment in our state's economic future, and by a grant from the Healy Foundation, Taos, New Mexico.
Hello, I'm Lorene Mills, and welcome to Report from Santa Fe. Our guest today is Buffy St. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, you are an icon on so many levels, not only in music, but in political activism. You warped the minds of our children when you were on Sesame Street all those years. And now you're back in New Mexico. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. I would look forward to coming to New Mexico. If I could have a second home, I think it'd be here somewhere.
Well, we'd love to have you.
Thank
I can't
you.
tell you how much we'd love to have you. You have recently, after a 13-year hiatus, put out a new CD called Running for the Drum.
Mm-hmm.
It DVD about your life and interviews about all the famous people who have covered your songs. And when I look at the arc, the trajectory of your career, you include so many forms of music and activism and talent, raw talent. And it's somehow, you managed to distill it all and put it on this CD.
Oh, thanks.
It opens with this rousing No Keshagesh.
No Keshagesh.
It's just a passionate song, but very, very politically active.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah, it means no greedy guts. But tell us, who is this greedy guts we speak of?
Keshagesh literally means greedy guts, but it was the name that we had for a little puppy. Oh, this was during the 60s on the Pie Part Reservation in Saskatchewan. And we used to call him Keshagesh because he'd eat all his own and he'd want everybody else's. So I would say, you know the type.
Yes, I do.
So No Keshagesh, the song, it's a real rocker. We call it powwow rock.
Powwow rock?
Powwow rock.
Is that a genre?
Well, I started doing that about 1975 with Star Walker, the first time that I recorded Star Walker. It's a combination of Cree style singing, but basically in a pop rock context so that people can enjoy the two of them. I mean, yeah, it's a combination. The song No Keshagesh is about environmental greed. Yeah. No Keshagesh, you can't do that no more.
No, right. You've been an activist for years, and I want, in case young people might not have known what you've been doing for 40 or 50 years, I just want to tell them you were the first Native American woman, first Canadian, to get an Academy Award, which you got for...
Up Where We Belong, from An Officer and a Gentleman.
Yes.
Thank goodness for Joe Cocker and Jennifer Warren.
They did a beautiful job, but
Very
you also, it's a beautiful song.
Thanks.
Beautiful song. In the 60s, you did a lot of work. You started out singing in coffee houses, and you brought an awareness of Native American rights and the beginning of the Native American movement. You were like the ambassador.
What I really was trying to do as an entertainer, I saw an opportunity to spotlight local issues in Indian country. So it's funny that I'd be called an activist, because I think probably what that brings to mind is people yelling and throwing their fists and holding signs, and I never was part of that. But as a writer and a singer and a person who spoke out, that was the kind of activism that I did. It was much more in the arts.
And people had asked you, because you were a college kid, were you nervous? And I've read that you had said, no, because the song is my medicine. The song is my gift to these people. The people deserve to hear this song. I'm just a channel. Is that how you felt?
Well, kind of. Actually, I wasn't. I always tell people who have to make a speech or be on stage or something, don't think about yourself.
Yeah.
It's not about you, you know, it's about the message. So I thought people would enjoy the songs, you know, especially my love songs, rock and roll songs, country songs. But when it came to songs about any kind of social awareness, like, you know, war and Native issues, or, you know, treating each other right, bullying, women's issues. What I was offering people was information that they couldn't get at the time. You know, I have a song called Jeremiah. It's real obscure, but it has a line in it that says, some will tell you what you really want ain't on the menu. Don't believe them. Don't believe them. Cook it up yourself and then prepare to serve them, because they don't know. So I learned very early in life that sometimes people will offend you, mistreat you, something. They just don't know what they're doing. So when it came to Universal Soldier, for instance, I think some people had never really thought about who's responsible for war, you know. In my opinion, war is about money laundering 101, you know. That's just my opinion. When it came to Native issues, I really thought that audiences of non-Indian people, if they only knew, they would help. And in the beginning of my career, they certainly did. I mean, once I started having trouble, people did not get to hear that message anymore, you know, because it was all put out of business by political administrations. But I think that it was certainly worth my while, because looking back on the work that I've done over the years, just through songs, oh man, a lot of people tell me that it made a difference. So I don't think we should ever give up on the idea that, you know, one person can make a difference, especially if you're in the position of being in the arts, where you can influence so many people who really want to hear what's actually going on, instead of just this little narrow party line that somebody's selling. Because life itself is just 360 degrees, you know, lots more than just what's being sold on TV that day.
Let's go back to Universal Soldier, because it still is universal. The war, that this was a protest song, was used as a protest song against the Vietnam War.
Right, but do you remember in those times when young people wouldn't know? Do you remember for a couple of years they were telling us, there's no war in Vietnam, you hippies are crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I had the opportunity to, I was going from Mexico to Toronto and spent the night in San Francisco airport. In the middle of the night, here came these guys in uniforms, and they were wheeling their buddies on, you know, gurneys and wheelchairs. And they talked to me, and they told me, oh yeah, there's a war. And I just got to thinking, who is responsible for war? Is it these poor guys who probably enlisted, you know, patriotism or tradition, or do something for their country, or see the world or something? And I concluded that, yeah, they do have a responsibility. And I got to thinking about career military officers, you know, who spend their adult lives going to colleges of war and learning how to make war better. And looking back on it today, as proud as I am of my generation for having stopped, you know, having played a part in stopping that war, we still, all these years later, we have 5 colleges of war and no college of peace. No college of alternative conflict resolution. Think of it, Annapolis, West Point, the Air Force Academy, the Royal Military Academy, and the Army College of War. They're big, heavily funded, important, lots of clout, serious colleges where you can learn how to make war. But we don't have one college of that kind of seriousness, stature, and funding dedicated to alternative conflict resolution.
And we only have one voice in the Congress, Dennis Kucinich, requesting year after year we should have a Department of Peace.
Yes, yes. So there's still a lot of good work left to be done in the world. You know, it hasn't all been done, and yet I do like to say that we shouldn't get into some silly caricature where we blame the government. I mean, that's just useless. It accomplishes nothing. The government, the Lyndon Johnson administration, it was a handful of guys. The Richard Nixon administration, it was a handful of guys. That's all it is. It's just a few guys running everything. And when you realize that, I mean, nobody tells you that, but when you realize that, it's a step forward.
Can you just tell us that last stanza, that last refrain?
Oh, let's see. It says, he's the universal soldier, and he really is to blame, but his orders
brothers, can't you see? This is not the way we go into war.
Now here we have 3-4 wars going on.
Yes.
Where is the fulcrum? Who's going to make the decision?
Follow the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of money in war. People will say, nobody wants war. Oh, a lot of people want war. It's where the money is. You know, that's the way you get the boys out of town, you loot the domestic economy. And, you know, where are our sports programs, our arts programs, our education programs?
Yes.
Where are our health programs? You know, it's all going to the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower spoke about. So, you know, this is something that we can do. We shouldn't be afraid of it. But we do need to do something about it. We do need to think about it. So, I don't know. One of the best steps, I think, are colleges of peace. But peace is almost a flimsy word. I like alternative conflict resolution better because it's such a human thing. Conflict is such a human thing, and there's all kinds of reasons for it. And you see it in the family, you see it in the schoolyard, you see bullying in the corporation, you see bullying in the hospital and in the school. And if we come to understand that this is something that the human race needs to grow out of, it's not like there are devils and bad guys and the government. It's handfuls of people who manipulate us because it's so profitable. And if we don't think about it and create positive alternatives, it's going to stay the way it is.
Well, your early degree was in Oriental philosophy.
You
right?
are so smart.
And so this is a natural extension of a much more Buddhist way of looking at the world. To call for the individual responsibility, you know, it's up to us in Universal Soldier. And in one of your wonderful old songs that you have on your new CD, Running for the Drum, you do Little Wheels Spin and Spin.
Yeah.
So tell our audience what that message is that is as appropriate now as it was back on the early album it was on.
Little Wheel Spin and Spin has it has something in common with Universal Soldier in that it's about individual responsibility for the world that we live in. Merry Christmas, jingle bells, Christ is born and the devil's in hell, hearts they shrink, pockets swell, everybody know and nobody tell. It says, oh, the sins of Caesar's men, cry the pious citizens who petty thieve the 5 and 10s. And the big wheels turn around and around. The individual level of what we do every day, if we petty thieve the 5 and 10s, that's contributing to just the whole bigger concept that it's okay to exploit others, and it's really not. It's really not. It says blame the angels, blame the fates, blame the Jews, your sister Kate, teach your children how to hate, and the big wheel spins around and around. So some songs, I guess, are worth repeating, and I think that the arts can do something gently, even if the message is edgy. I mean, life is edgy, and life is sweet. And a song like Little Wheel Spin and Spin is edgy. It was edgy then, and it's still edgy now. I mean, it makes people uncomfortable, right? To think that we have some kind of responsibility in creating our world. But it shouldn't make us feel guilty. It should make us feel inspired.
And empowered.
Empowered, exactly, yes, yeah.
We've talked about some of your more empowering songs, but also you do some of the best love songs that have ever been written. And you must be one of the most covered musicians because your songs have been covered by or performed by Janis Joplin, Cher, Barbra Streisand, Elvis Presley. Your song Until It's Time for You to Go, wasn't it Elvis and Priscilla's their own personal love song? Isn't that sweet? Neil Diamond, Tracy Chapman, the Boston Pops have even done your work. Bobby Darin, it's just huge.
I got lucky on that one.
Yeah.
A lot of people recorded it.
Yes, and also the most extraordinary people have done Up Where We Belong. Yeah, again, huge, the entire cosmos of the range of musicians. But then you've covered some other people's too. The timbre in your voice and the way you sing is so emotional. We'll be adding something so that people can hear you singing. But it's a completely unique voice and a completely unique texture.
I'm a woman, take my hand, we'll make a space in the lives that we plan, and here we'll stay until it's time for you to go.
much is that is emotional? How much of that is physiological?
I think a lot of it's emotional. I can sing like somebody else if I try. I mean, if I tried to impersonate people, I can do that. But why? Why do you want to be somebody else? I mean, you're the only you there'll ever be in this whole wide world. So I figured that out a long time ago. I certainly didn't want to be, a copy of some other singer, because they would always do it better. So since I was writing my own songs and couldn't get anybody else to sing them in the beginning, and because my songs were about everything, I think that an artist is like a camera, and I take pictures of everything, and in different moods, and some ideas seem to fit into country songs, some feel more like love songs, or, if I got something to yell about, it'll come out differently. So I think you're right on the right trail. I think a lot of it is emotional. And my favorite singers, when I was first coming up with Edith Piaf, who's a French singer, who was totally emotional singer and wasn't even thinking about what she sounded like. Yeah. And that gave me great courage, because I never expected to be a singer. I knew I was a songwriter. I was just trying to get the songs to the people. And I was the only one who knew them, so, what you got was what you got. I've never been one of those you have to have hot tea and lemon, and I'll go to some folk singer, some folk festival, and somebody in the next dressing room will be woo 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 woo, and but if you've ever been to a powwow, people sit around the drum, they'll sing for 8 hours straight, right, and so. I think because I only had the song itself, and the emotion of the song was so important, I thought, so important. I wasn't focusing on musical things, and it took me a while of listening back to my records to kind of pay attention to what audiences expected. Because when you sing powwow or when you sing the music of India, you're using quarter tones. And most American audiences, they don't get that. They don't know what that is. Right? They don't get that. But flamenco singers do. So I know thought of as an American or Native American singer, but my influences from the very beginning, I didn't think about it, but I guess were very heavily broadened and extended. I never experienced the do, re, mi, fa, sol. I never lived in that world. I lived in the world of and yet some of my songs, since I wanted to give the song to the people, I learned how to calm myself down a little bit. And a lot of my songs are very straightforward. Some of them would use, like Chet Atkins brought me to Nashville. Chet Atkins brought everybody to Nashville. He just loved songwriters and musicians.
What was your song that he did, the best?
Oh, he did a bunch of them. Take My Hand for a While. Yeah. Oh, God, that was beautiful. Country Girl Again, Until It's Time for You to Go. He did a bunch of them. Yeah, he just loved songwriters. And he brought me to Nashville and put me together with Lloyd Kramer and some of these other incredible side musicians who were his friends. And I made a country album, and I sang it pretty straight. It's still emotional, but it's not all over the planet, because Nashville and a country album were not at the time supposed to be all over the planet. What I'm trying to say is I've always had kind of a world approach, because I was fortunate enough to be around a lot of different kinds of musics.
Well, eclectic, we'll say. You have an eclectic repertoire. But it's interesting, there are people who say that this generation now is the first generation that doesn't have their own music. If you look in their iPods, they've got Frank Sinatra, Kurt Cobain, the Beatles. They have all these things and music from all over the world. And you came in on that world music of the 60s with the folk music and Indian music, everything. And now through the internet, it is really the time of world music.
Yes. Yeah.
And I have to tell you, your DVD is called A Multimedia Life. So you've gone from It's My Way to a multimedia life. But I want to tell us a little about this. You were doing electronic music way before it was cool. You were one of the first digital artists. You have 9-foot-high digital paintings in museums. And you are able, I think the duet with Taj Mahal that you do on here, you were able to record it. You weren't in the same continent.
He was in New Zealand and I was in Hawaii. And his son was one of the engineers, and a guy from France was my engineer. So.
And yet it sounds like you're just looking at each other and singing.
Well, we're good friends. We know each other real good. We, as a matter of fact, Taj Mahal and I were classmates at the University of Massachusetts, and our sons were roommates at Berklee College of Music. I know, so our families have been close for a long time, so that was pretty easy. But what you said about being early with electronic music, I made the first totally electronic quadraphonic vocal album in the 60s. It came out, I think, 1966 or something. It's called Illuminations, and it was a big deal with electronic music students and art students, but, you know, the folk music world, they didn't know.
Well, look what they did when Bob Dylan went electric. You know, they were yeah.
Well, I think every kind of art goes through that kind of thing. This pure art, whatever it is, whether Bob Dylan's playing electric or not, it doesn't, right? And then you have these little cliques that develop around artists and songs and styles, and you kind of get the folk police, you know, telling you what's this and what's that, and it's only music. It's only music. You can't hurt it. And you mentioned digital art. I was lucky enough, because of having done the album Illuminations, I got into the world of electronic music and then computers because of music, which to me is play. So I never had that sense of pie charts and doing your taxes and war, you know, associated with computers. For me, it was just another tool, whether I was using it for music or art. All it's doing is recording what I'm doing and organizing what I'm doing according to my wishes. So the artist is still totally in charge. And yet it was very, very, very controversial. Oh, you know, digital art, what is that? You know, people were envisioning pie charts, or they came up with this thing, computer-generated art. Yeah, you only wish. It was not. It was never that. So I was very lucky to get into digital art, and in the 80s with my Macintosh computer. Suddenly I could do my music, my writing, and my art all in the same little thing. I put a floppy disk in my purse. I fly to Toronto. I continue my work. I fly to Paris. I borrow a computer. I continue my work. So it really, really, technology, if you love it, not if you like this about it, but if you love it, and it's another toy, because to me it is. I play music and I play art. I just love it. It's never like, what do you do about a metal block? No. Yeah. Just
you say
give me a canvas.
You say that you feel like you're still a kindergartner.
Yes, I am.
And that you want to play.
I do, yeah. I'm very lucky like that.
And so that the dual meaning of playing music, but also playing, let's do this, let's do that. What would that sound like?
Sometimes people ask me, well, why do you take so much time off between albums? And I don't ever want to be a record business drudge, you know, show up with an album every 9 months and what? I mean, whose plantation am I working for, you know? And I just never have been a part of that world. So I think a lot of artists in New Mexico are probably very real, genuine, self-motivated, see a huge world and enjoy what we do, you know, whether we're at a pueblo and we're making things with clay or we're making incredible sculptures out of something else. And whether it's music or dance, originality rules. And I think I just encourage all artists, explore your originality. I mean, if you really want to make wallpaper, go make wallpaper. But if you don't, your own originality is more precious than anything.
Well, you've been recognized you've gotten 5 honorary doctorates. You've gotten, what are the United?
10 honorary doctorates.
10? Am I behind?
I'm telling you, I'm lucky.
Yeah. But what would you tell a young person? You're saying to follow your own creative vision and to play with it and have fun.
Yeah.
But when they bump up against, like, you know, the real world, your baby's needs a new pair of shoes and you've got to pay the rent. How you were very lucky because of the royalties from
because
your
of
music.
Until It's Time for You to Go.
Yeah,
because of all those singers recording my songs.
So how, for a young artist, how would you evoke a way of balancing
no matter
those
what
two?
you're doing to make a living, I mean, not just for artists, for anybody. You got to leave room in your life for life to happen. You can't be 24 hours with your nose to the grindstone. I mean, or you'll never have time to fall in love. You'll never have time to enjoy. You'll never have time to be inspired to make beautiful art if that's what you want to do. So, I don't know. What I tell people is, in the first place, well, I don't live for money anyway. I mean, I give a whole lot of money away, but and I am very fortunate in that a song has allowed me to remain an artist and not have to get another job. But I have had other jobs, so I would say if you're really into your art, get some little job that doesn't mean a whole lot to you to pay the rent. And put your attention into saving enough time in every hour or every day, every week, to let life happen, you know, on your canvas or in your music or whatever it is. But, you know, I would say that to anybody, you know, besides pockets, you have a heart. But you have to be smart enough not to bite off more than you can chew. I mean, really, if you're going to have 12 kids, you're not going to have much time to do anything but nose to the grindstone.
But if you're going to have 47 goats, how many?
I don't have 47 goats.
How many goats do you have?
Well, last time I started, I had 27.
Oh, 27.
But now I have, let's see, 20 or 21.
Well, thank you for coming to us in beautiful New Mexico from Hawaii.
Oh, my pleasure.
From the beautiful rainforest and the happy frolicking goats.
Oh, I wish I could be here longer and more often. I love it.
Yeah, I always want you to come and speak to the
Thank
New
you.
Mexico public television audience.
Thanks,
I'm sorry we're out of time. Our guest today is the iconic, fabulous Buffy St. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, too.
And I'm Lorene Mills. I'd like to thank you, our audience, for being with us today on Report from Santa Fe. We'll see you next week.
Past archival programs of Report from Santa Fe are available at the website reportfromsantafe.com. If you have questions or comments, please email info@reportfromsantafe.com. Report from Santa Fe is made possible in part by grants from the members of the National Education Association of New Mexico, an organization of professionals who believe that investing in public education is an investment in our state's economic future, and by a grant from the Healy Foundation, Taos, New Mexico.